While I was here, I studied music business and piano performance, and I always had loved film music and had a passion for it. Didn't realize that it was a thing you could go to school and study, so when I figured that out, I started taking composition lessons with Dr. Walsh and Dr. Saslaw, and then I did go on to NYU and studied film scoring there, and when I was done with that, moved out to LA. And currently, my job, I work in production music, and who knows what production music is? Okay, sort of. So basically, also known by the term music libraries, also known as stock music, although that's kind of a derogatory word. We supply all of the music that's happening in every single TV show, film, commercial that it hasn't been custom composed for that project. So my function is as an in-house composer, which is a job that I didn't really know existed. I was working 5 different jobs, teaching music, accompanying, working in a church as a pianist, bartending, everything I could think of, driving all over LA, and I was kind of tired of it. I knew I wanted to have kids. I wanted to have kind of a more set schedule, so I started looking on entertainmentcareers.net and seeing what I could find, and a job position popped up that said full-time in-house composer benefits 401k, and I was like, what? So I applied for that. They interviewed so many people that my boss had to take pictures of everyone. And it ended up coming down to me and one of my classmates from NYU, who's also just an amazing person. And I only got the job because I was a better personality fit. So in my office, when I come to work every day, I don't know what I'm going to be working on. We have one of the biggest music supervisors in Hollywood who has his office within our office in the building. And he will often walk down to my office and stop and say, I have a need for a scene. The composer and the composer's assistant don't have time to do it. I need you to write it. And I say, okay, what's it gonna be? It's for the Blacklist. I need an Uzbek tango. Never written a tango before, never written music that comes from Uzbekistan. I have no idea. I do an hour of research real quick, and then I write a piece, and an hour later it's placed in the TV show. They choreograph the tango scene to it, and then I'm off and running. The other part of my job is that I'm in touch with every single music supervisor and everyone who works in the studios and ad agencies, pitching music to them. They send the briefs out to us and all our competitors, and it's up to whoever can send the best, most appropriate music for the scene, the fastest, who's gonna get that placement. So in addition to my full-time job, most of the money I make is on my BMI royalty checks from getting placed in everything from, I had a piece of sound design in the trailer for the Justin Bieber movie. Sometimes I have a placement of a Christmas piece that I did that goes on the Big Bang Theory and makes me money for years. So whenever I get my royalty statement, it's always a lot of fun to kind of pour through it and see what's happening. I end up working on these random shows, doing theme songs or doing additional music that I've never heard of the show, I've never heard of the channel it airs on, but it makes me money. They like it, I love it. So it's definitely one of those situations where every day when I get into work, I don't know what I'm going to be doing, but it has also allowed me to pursue the other part of my career, which is as a film music composer for independent film. I get to choose the projects I work on based on the storyteller and the story, and I don't have to worry about what I'm getting paid. Pretty much anything I get paid, I use on the live players for the score. And just this past year, in 2018, after years of applying, I finally got accepted into the Sundance Film Music Lab, so I got to go for 2 weeks to Skywalker Sound, and I'm the biggest Star Wars fan in the world. I'm insane, so you can imagine how thrilling this was for me. And I got to be mentored by Thomas Newman, Harry Gregson Williams. That was all the first week. And then the second week, we got paired with an up-and-coming independent film director and scored scenes from their film that they're currently working on. That was the most incredible experience of my life, completely changed the way I approach this craft, the way I approach the business. And for the first time in the 30-some-year history of the lab, this was actually the first year that so many more women applied, that there were 5 women and 3 men. And just 2 years ago, they only achieved gender parity with 4 men and 4 women. So it was really interesting to see that happen. And it was purely because so many more women applied. And I myself had been trying for so many years to get in. So I'll talk a little bit about 5 Alarm now. This is the company that I work for. So on the left here, these are all the catalogs that we represent worldwide. It's 80-some catalogs. These are all playlists that we created due to the kind of requests that we're getting from music supervisors. And then these are all the new releases from all across our different libraries. As they come up on SoundMiner, they pop up here. So basically my job over here, I have all my playlists organized by date, and I'm just getting these requests and trying to be the first person from all of our competitors to send the best, most appropriate music. In addition to being a composer and being a music director, I'm also a producer. So in that way, I get a budget from my boss, I brief out the album, I hire who's gonna compose on it. Usually with each composer and songwriter, we just give them the upfront budget. It's up to them to decide who they're gonna hire, where they're gonna record and everything. And we have weekly production music meetings where we talk about, okay, what do we need? What are the holes in our catalog that we need to fill? And one of the things that we need is the genre known as SoundCloud rap. Right? We need that. We need that. Like I was reading an article about it the other day where this like veteran producer heard some of it and was like, but it's not mixed. It's not mixed. He couldn't fathom it. And having something that's in that genre that's like actually unique and real and from somebody who's actually doing it, isn't trying to fake that sound or sound like that. That's one of the challenges that we're finding, but it's like that. So when I was sitting down with Thomas Newman, we actually talked only like 20 minutes about my music and about the cue of his that I was rescoring. The rest of the time we talked about life and what it's like to be an artist and establishing a career that's gonna last. And he shared this E.E. Cummings quote with me: "Almost anybody can learn to think or believe or know, but not a single human being can be taught to feel." Why? Because whenever you think or you believe or you know, you're a lot of other people. But the moment you feel, you're nobody but yourself. To be nobody but yourself in a world which is doing its best night and day to make you everybody else means to fight the hardest battle which any human being can fight and never stop fighting. And after he said this quote to me, I'm just sitting there, I'm realizing I'm with one of my film music heroes of all time, and he's still struggling with it. And there's a lot of people who want to have a career in the music business and in entertainment, right? And so many people want to be composers, so many people want to be songwriters and artists and everything. And how you succeed is by having something to offer that is true and unique and authentic to you. And how do you find your voice? And I know that when I graduated from here 15 years ago, I didn't know what my voice was or how I was going to find it. And the only way that I did was through just creating as much as I possibly could. So the energy in this room of all of you guys announcing all your incredible projects and the way that you guys have really embraced how the business is now. I mean, there's some incredible accomplishments you guys are doing and people who've graduated from here going on. It's really, really inspiring to see all the incredible things you guys are doing. So I was wondering if anybody wanted to ask me any questions. That sometimes leads into another story that's very informative. So, yes?
What's the process for submitting music?
To the library? So basically, it's just an email address that goes out to me and the other music directors, and then we kind of go through it and send it on to our creative director. It's pretty much the same across all the libraries. What really works is, and I know this is true for our competitors too, is to offer something that is unique to you and that you think could fill a hole in our catalog. And if you had taken a look and researched and listened to some of the music and been like, oh yeah, I can do this genre very well also and bring a new voice to it. Or I do something that you don't have a lot of. I was telling John earlier that one of the holes in a lot of catalogs is like actual real New Orleans music. There's a lot more movies and shows being set here. And the music supervisor will be like, yeah, I don't want like the music, the bluegrass music, the Mardi Gras music you've been sending. Like, I need something that sounds like Rebirth Brass Band. I need something that sounds like the actual high school marching band in the parade. I need something that sounds like the Preservation Hall Jazz Band. So, you know, anybody creating a really high quality set of albums in that style from New Orleans, that would get snapped up by any of the libraries right away, so that then we had the real deal to pitch to these music supervisors for all these projects. Yeah.
I imagine you have to work really fast a lot. So
Yeah.
what are your strategies for getting stuff done fast and also like doing it well but not feeling like you're an assembly line?
Yeah, I mean, that's something my colleague Steve, he's on like a strict 1 track a day quota. And there's other libraries like at Bleeding Fingers, which is Hans Zimmer's production music shop, and at Jingle Punks, which is owned by our same parent company, they're on 3 tracks a day. So I'm not on that strict of a schedule because I do have other functions there, but I basically have like a weekly quota that I need to write, and I honestly just have a giant whiteboard where every hour of my day is sectioned out into what I'm gonna spend it on. And especially this cinematic piano trailer album I'm working on now, it's something, the tracks for trailers have like a specific formula to it.
Is it like you're paying whoever the artist is one-off for that song that you're going to use? Or
Yeah, we basically, and we own it. So the artist retains their writer's share, but we own the publishing. And it's basically a work for hire, and it goes into our library forever. So we'll get the brief that says, okay, this is the description of the ad, like it's very elegant, it's very high fashion, like we want something orchestral or maybe string quartet or maybe it could be piano, but we just want it to evoke this feeling of elegance and timelessness, and it's focusing on this artist and this dancer, and they give us all of the details like that. That brief is going not only to us, but to all the other large music libraries. It's possibly going out to individual composers too that they've worked with before. It's just gonna be who hits the mark on the ear of the person listening. So I will then go through the library. I go to this site that I showed you guys before. I start at the search bar up there. I put in a couple keywords. I'll put in elegance, but I'll do ELEGAN with an asterisk because that will capture elegance, and multiple words. A bunch of different results will come up. I'll just listen through them really quickly, make a playlist, send that playlist to the person at the ad agency, and then depending on how accurately I got the pitch, I may go through a couple other rounds. Then they'll write back and say, guess what, you won the spot, and everyone says, yay. Then it goes over to our account executives who then talk about the fee, talk about licensing, all of that paperwork happens, and somewhere down the line, indeterminate, I then see my royalties from it show up on my BMI statement. But because I am in-house, it's part of my salary, I'm not getting paid a sync fee for this. If they'd chosen like an independent freelance composer, they'd also receive a sync fee. For me, it goes straight to my company. But yeah, a lot of like independent composers working on trailers and ads and stuff, they can do really well with those sync fees. And I had another short film that I worked on earlier this year that we mixed at Paramount because the director works there. So we had access to all the sound stages. And the mixer there works on tons of big TV shows and movies. And he actually couldn't tell that that score was almost totally in the box except for a live cello. That just means that I got really good at mixing and really good at combining different sample libraries. Like the strings on that score are a mixture of like 5 different string libraries and just testing it enough and practicing enough to get exactly the right sound. But that's just a really good example of the type of projects that come across my desk at this point in my career. I don't care what it pays. I don't care where it's going to go. For me, it helps me grow as a storyteller. It helps me grow as a composer. It's only going to net benefit me to work on these projects and just get better in my relationships. Oh, and the other thing I have to tell you guys, you're probably so tired of hearing this, but with a lot of the interns and a lot of the entry-level people that we work with, I cannot stress enough how key relationships are in this industry and how key your personal integrity is. And I'm not going to tell any of these horror stories or name names or anything, but it's really difficult to recover from burning a bridge or making some sort of mistake. And in terms of your personal integrity, that's what's going to make people want to work with you in your relationships. You can have all the talent in the world, and if people don't want to be around you, they're not going to want to work with you, and they're not going to want to hire you. One of the biggest agents always says, be a good hang. Like, be somebody that they want to hang out with, and that they want to go somewhere and talk about non-musical things and talk about life. And if you say you're going to do something, do it, and do it when you said you were going to do it. And if you don't know how to do it, there is an element of fake it till you make it, and I've used that a lot. But if you don't know how to do it, just say it. Just admit it and like learn how to do it. And anybody that I've ever said that to, I don't know how to do that. They've been like, okay, here's how you do it, and taught it to me right then, instead of me being like, yep, I'll do it. And then sitting there going like, what's a rundown? I don't know what to do. Like, that's an Office reference. Anybody? Okay. So that's the other thing, like all of the younger kind of your guys' age interns and people that we work with, the ones that have gone on to get like real jobs in the industry and had success and grown in their careers are the ones that displayed that kind of integrity. And it sounds so cliche to say, but it's stayed true for the entire 15 years that I've been out here working in the business. So if it sucks to hear it again, like I'm gonna say it again, that the relationship that you make, when I was still bartending and waiting tables, I waited on John Debney, the film composer. I knew who he was. He was out to dinner for an anniversary with his wife. And at the end of their dinner, they're like, oh, we just love you, you're great, are you an actress? And I'm like, no, I'm actually a composer, and I know who you are, and I wanna work for you. And I kept in touch with him, and years and years and years and years, and then finally, like 8 or 9 years later, he had a session next door at Firehouse Recording Studios, which we used to be next to in our office. And my boss was an old family friend, and he's like, oh, John Debney's next door, like, let's go talk to him. And so I walked into the room and reminded him that I had waited on him all those years ago. And he's like, of course I remember you. And they were talking about that night, and I ended up getting to become really good friends with him. I get to go to so many of his sessions, like for the Orville at Fox. I've gotten to do a little bit of work with him, and that was just a random relationship. But it's also the people that you meet as you're all coming up, the people that you know from school, the people that you work on your first projects with, the people that come to your shows, like all the shows that you guys have coming up, the people who listen to your music. That's definitely, all of those relationships can end up panning out into really important things for you later in your life and in your career. And just being a good hang, being a good person, telling the truth, and doing your work, all of that. That's super important, even as much as your talent is. So, yeah. So I don't know if you guys wanted to ask anything else. Did any other questions come up that occurred to you? And anybody, you can send me music. If you have SoundCloud rap, send it to me.